Hi everyone! If you're new here, I'm Christina. I'm a graduate student in journalism and communications, and this is Media Tidbits. Okay, so for today's video, I have a very special guest here. One of my classmates in my program who specializes in comms, Sophia. Hey, Sophia.
Hi, Christina. So happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh my God, of course. It feels like it's been so long since we've been in class
I
together.
know. It's been a couple long months.
Today's video is going to be a little bit different from the previous two that I've posted. In terms of format, it's gonna be a little different. What we're gonna do is we're gonna watch through and react to Camille Vasquez and Ben Chu's interview with Good Morning America. And then we're gonna grade it like the way Aaron would grade us. So Aaron's one of our teachers in our graduate program. So we're gonna pull an Aaron and grade it. And who knows? Our viewers, you guys might get a lesson or two along the way. At least that's the plan. So, Sophia, you didn't watch the trial, right?
I didn't watch the trial, honestly. Of course, I was on Twitter, so I saw all the discourse about it, but I don't know. I felt like at that time the world was on fire, so that was just one thing that I didn't care to pay attention to.
Totally fair. But it doesn't matter that you didn't watch it because we're not opining on the outcome or any of the aspects of the trial. We're just focusing on media tactics. So, are you ready for this?
So ready.
All right, let's get started.
Can't wait to give my opinions.
I'm here with Johnny Depp's lawyers, Camille Vasquez and Ben Chu, sitting down for their first interview since the blockbuster verdict that Depp was defamed by ex-wife Amber Heard. Welcome to you both. Camille, let me begin with you. I think the verdict surprised a lot of legal experts. They thought it was a very uphill fight from the beginning for you all. What was the key to victory?
I think the key to victory was focusing on the facts and the evidence, and Johnny's opportunity to speak the truth for the first time. It was 6 years in the making. And I think he was able to connect with the jury and the general public and tell what really happened in this relationship.
He wasn't in the courtroom for the verdict. What was it?
Okay, so just first off the bat, I don't know about you, but one thing that I noticed is that she used the wording of the question to answer, and she went right into some key messages.
Oh, yeah. She sounds calculated. She sounds like she rehearsed that, not gonna lie, which is honestly fine because it's better to play it safe and have rehearsed a bit than to say something you're gonna regret later. But she also sounds very objective, and she plugged the word facts and truth right off the bat, which I think was smart.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more.
She's framing. Right, Erin?
Yeah, right? She's framing it. No, I agree with you. It was definitely something that was rehearsed. She went right into those key messages. But the thing is, the way she answered them, she answered it using the wording of the question first. So you don't really catch off the bat that she's moving into key messages, right?
Yeah, it was a good transition, very smooth. Because I didn't even notice her do that until you mentioned it.
Yeah. All right, let's continue.
What was his reaction when you told him?
He was over the moon. It was like the weight of the world had been taken off his shoulders, and I feel that finally, after 6 years, he's gotten his life back.
He also went on TikTok yesterday thanking his supporters on social media. What role did social media play in this verdict?
My view is that social media played no role whatsoever. This was a decision made by the jury on the evidence presented by both sides. And as Camille said, it was overwhelmingly in Mr. Depp's favor.
Ms.
Okay. What are your thoughts?
Really? Social media didn't play any role? The jury must have. I don't know. I don't know because I only saw this discourse about the trial on social media myself. It's hard to believe that in any trial that's in, the public sphere today, social media wouldn't have an impact, but I don't know. I can't really speak to that because I don't know.
Yeah, to be fair, her team, Amber Heard's team, brought social media into the courtroom when they showed which hashtags and things like that were trending. So And actually, Amber Heard herself said something once or twice along the lines of, "Go check the social media to see what's happening to me," which really, like they were told several times by the judge not to go on social media. So it was very, and I don't know if I believe that they did. They there's a lot of, they are under strict instructions, and like that would be really bad if they didn't listen to those instructions. They can get into a lot of trouble. So I don't want to be one to speculate that the jury did go on social media. I think that's dangerous to think that. But to say that played a, to say that would have played a role in the verdict, I think wouldn't be necessarily accurate, because they have to sort of cite certain evidence to back up, right?
Also, regardless of whether or not it did, it's smart that Ben answered this question that way and said no.
Oh, absolutely. And I don't know if you noticed, but even just like the phrasing, he's gotten his life back, like that's framing right there. And and the use of overwhelmingly in his favor. We're going to hear this a lot. This is a major key message throughout this. Yeah. Let's continue.
Ms. Heard's lawyers put out a statement yesterday saying the verdict was a setback for women's rights, and they went on to say that it's unseemly and unprofessional for you all to be, quote, taking a victory lap for setting back decades of how women can be treated in the courtroom. How do you respond to that?
I think it's disappointing. We're only speaking about what happened in this case, right? And the facts in this case were overwhelmingly positive for Johnny, and the verdict speaks for itself.
How about the broad?
Okay. So I want to touch on that there, because George Stephanopoulos knew what he was doing when he said, "Hey, Heard's team says this," and I don't know about you, but I thought that Camille answering with, "It's disappointing," and using the sort of, the disappointed parent tactic. Nobody's painting Elaine as the bad guy. No one's going and saying, well, her lawyer's this, and that. There's no bad mouthing. So I thought it was a really smart way to answer.
I agree. And it's sort of, she is her tone sort of like the disappointed parent. That's a perfect way to put it, because she is almost above that. She can look at this from a place of complete objectivity. And I think that's what she's saying here. She said the verdict speaks for itself. Also very smart to have her answer that question as a woman, because the question was about whether or not this is a setback for women's rights. So in my opinion, this isn't a man's place to, answer such question. So good on her for taking the reins there.
That's a really solid point. I didn't even think of that.
And she sounded objective, and I mean, I believe her. I do believe her. And she also talked about, this case, we're not going to extrapolate. This case is what I'm dealing with. I was a lawyer for this case, and this does not speak to all women.
Yes, absolutely. And that's a really important thing that she put in there.
It's also good that she didn't keep on blabbing, sort of, because she could have accidentally said something like, I mean, even me just saying we shouldn't let this extrapolate to all women. If she said that, then some people could come for her for saying one way or the other. So she didn't even mention any other cases regarding women or women's rights. She was just like, nope. In this case, the facts spoke for themselves, and period.
Yes. Yeah. Sometimes, really saying less is more, right?
Absolutely.
All right, let's continue.
The criticism, though, it's not just from Heard's teams. Victims advocates have argued that the verdict is going to have a chilling effect on domestic violence victims, and it's a blow to the Me Too movement.
I think our response to that is we encourage any victim to come forward. Domestic violence doesn't have a gender.
So you don't see this as a setback to the movement in any way, shape, or form?
We do not. We believe that the verdict speaks for itself. The facts are what they were. The jury made a unanimous decision based on those facts.
Okay. I'm going to stop that there for a sec, because there were things that were good here. I really liked the whole domestic violence doesn't have a gender.
Yeah.
I think it's a really great and solid message, solid framing. But I didn't like how she responded when she said, I think our response to that would be, like, I think this is a case where she didn't need to use the wording of the question.
Yeah, you can tell she's run out of things to say, because she just repeated, her last sentence there, that was a nothing. That's what I like to call a nothing statement.
Yeah. And also even when he re-asked about, so you don't believe it's a setback, like I almost missed her response, right? She said, "No, we do not," and she went right into key messages. Do you notice that?
Yes, definitely. She has been training for this moment, you can tell. I mean, yeah, so she just kind of repeated herself. The verdict speaks for themselves. The facts are facts. That was sort of her way of telling the interviewer, okay, I don't have anything more to say on this. Let's move on to the next question.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a really good point. Okay, let's continue.
During your cross-examination, what was your impression of Ms. Heard's impression on the jury?
I think that her impression on the jury was what it was. I think something that I focused on and we focused on in that cross-examination was using her words against her. And it was very important for us every question that was asked was tied to something she had said previously. And I think the jury got to see and the world got to see and hear from Ms. Heard in that relationship on every single topic.
And George, I think there was
Hold on. Actually, no, sorry. Let's continue with Ben. Hold on.
a real contrast. Johnny took ownership of a lot of things. And it seemed at times, and perhaps it came through to the jury, that she had an answer for everything and she wasn't taking accountability for anything. And I think that made a difference.
Heard's lawyers say she...
Okay, so let's start from the top of that. That was like a really loaded question, but her impression on the jury. What did you think of that, of the whole response here?
Well, Camille didn't answer the question, for one.
I thought that was smart.
Yeah, she obviously didn't have an answer that would be appropriate, because I think her talking about what she thought Camille's impression on the jury would just be her giving an opinion. And, she was probably instructed to not give your opinion, focus on the key messages, blah, blah, blah. She said her impression on the jury was what it was, and then she quickly moved on. So again, a bit of a nothing statement. But then she moved on to key messages. You could tell that, I guess they were related to the question, that they wanted to use Heard's own words against her, which is good information. Obviously, that's something that they wanted to say in the interview. So this was a good enough opportunity.
Yeah, I actually thought the wording, even just saying it is what it is, I thought that was pretty smart, because don't forget, just like Adam Waldman's statements to the press, he's considered an agent for Johnny Depp. So anything that, and as you know, that's what Johnny Depp was being countersued for. So anything that his lawyers here, Ben and Camille, say could, if it was defamatory towards Amber Heard, can land Depp back in court, right? Because then they're considered vessels for him, right? So she had to be very careful not to say anything bad or potentially defamatory. And then, like you said about the focused on using her words against her, I actually thought I don't like that wording. I think she should have chosen a different phrase. I thought that was, yes, you're right. It sounds like something they wanted to make sure they put out there, but I think it's really negative and makes them look like the bad guy. I think it would have been better to just kind of say something like, well, we noticed contradictions or discrepancies in her testimony, and that's what we focused on.
Yeah, I agree. Instead of saying something like used blank against her, probably not, not super diplomatic.
Yeah, but Ben here, when he was saying about Johnny took ownership, and I noticed how careful he was too. He said it seemed at times that basically Amber Heard didn't. So it seemed that way. He's not saying it was that way. He's not saying the jury did feel that way. He says perhaps they felt that way. So it's speculative. So that was really careful, and
Great.
I think that was another key message. Like Johnny took ownership and not so much on the other end, right?
Yeah.
Say it without saying it. Anyway, let's continue.
She plans to appeal the verdict. She doesn't have the money to pay for the judgment. And you all have said that the goal is not to impoverish Ms. Heard. Is it possible where we could see a settlement where she forgoes the appeal in return for Mr. Depp waiving any monetary damages?
Well, George, we obviously can't disclose attorney-client communications, but as Mr. Depp testified, and as we both made clear in our respective closings, this was never about money for Mr. Depp. So this was about restoring his reputation, and he's done that.
So you're not disclosing any privileges, but it sounds like that's something that could be on the table, but it's up to Ms. Heard?
Again, we have to be careful what we say, but this was about Mr. Depp's reputation. That was what it was about for him.
Your life has changed a lot in the last several weeks. You got made part.
Trying to stop it. Okay. I don't know about you, but I think George Stephanopoulos was wasting his time with this question, and pressing on it again was stupid.
Yeah, I don't know what he was going for there. Obviously, they weren't going to say anything, that could be used against them later. They can't disclose anything about the trial. I think maybe he was just, thinking I might as well ask to see if we'll get some juicy piece of, some juicy information for my media,
but I think
my media segment.
There are other questions he could have asked that would have been more interesting, or like if you wanted that juicy piece, because Elaine Bredehoft, Amber Heard's lawyer, went on talk shows before Ben and Camille did, and he could have used any of the many things she said, and some of that stuff was spicy. Could have used any of that in this question instead of trying to get him to disclose things that's clearly he can't legally disclose.
Yeah, I think Ben handled the question well.
Yeah.
Of course, he said, I can't speak to that, sorry. But then he still elaborated, gave him something to work with. But yeah, there's not much to say about it. Of course, they're not gonna release any confidential information.
No, and I think he had no choice but to reiterate key messages here, because he literally can't answer the question.
No. So yeah, I agree. Bit of a waste of time, but he didn't belabor the point too much.
Yeah. All right, let's continue.
Partner, this week, congratulations.
Thank you very
Both
much.
of you have also become something of social media stars. How has it changed? What does it feel like?
It's been surreal, and if I'm being honest, a bit overwhelming. But if I can be an inspiration to young women that want to go to law school and study and work hard, then it was all worth it.
You made the choice to go to Virginia for this trial. How much of a difference did that make?
I think Virginia was a good venue for some legal and other reasons, and it has a fabulous court system, tremendous judges and fair juries, and I think the evidence was listened to carefully on both sides by the jury, and again, it came overwhelmingly in Johnny's favor.
Ms. Heard did win on one count.
Okay, yeah. So, Camille's response was, I think, very much rehearsed, but a good response.
Oh yeah, lovely. Can't argue with that. I think that's a nice message, and I think she's right. I think it's nice to see, a woman get recognition for such a famous case, and I like to think that she's conducting herself in a way that is going to continue to be viewed as ethical and fair and objective, and something that should be, replicated.
I agree. I totally agree. And even now, Ben's answer here about the location, I thought it was really smart that he complimented the court system.
Definitely. I don't know why they went to Virginia. I think he kind of explained it. Still don't really get it, but yeah, that was smart of him.
I think there were two things. I think one thing was the Washington Post, so where Amber Heard's article was published is in Virginia, and I think the anti-SLAPP laws are a little more. It was better for them in terms of anti-SLAPP laws.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Interesting.
And I could be wrong, but I actually think that their law firm might actually be in Virginia as well. So I think there were just kind of like a few reasons that lined up well, but makes sense.
But yeah, keep the people on your side.
Yeah.
Of defamation, will you be appealing that?
Again, I think it's premature to say, but if you look at the context of the verdict, it was a total win for Johnny.
Thank you both very much.
Thank you very much, George.
Their answers were slow, calculated, but short, which I appreciate as a viewer, especially as a viewer that hasn't watched the trial. I wasn't overwhelmed with information or facts. I, of course, got a completely biased look at the trial because I haven't watched the flip side. I don't know anything about the flip side, so it's just these two people. But I feel like I can trust them just based on the way that they conducted themselves in this interview. So to me, that means that it was a success.
I agree. And I think a lot of that comes down to how they answer the questions, because it never sounded directly like they were skirting around things. They often use the wording of the question to answer the question, which makes the audience trust them more and trust what they're saying, because it looks like they're addressing the question. And they do that before heading off to the key messages, because if they went on, you know how it is, if they went to the key messages off the bat or got really repetitive off the bat, you're not going to trust them. You're going to think they're hiding something. They're not answering things. But they showed that they were taking those questions and they were acknowledging each question that came in. So yeah, it makes them more trustworthy. And I agree, it was definitely a success. Okay, how do we grade them? What are you thinking? What's the grade here?
Okay, so I think they were professional, they were accurate, they didn't dig themselves into any holes, they got across their key messages, they used the question and the answer. For me, Camille seemed a bit like a robot, I will say. She could have been, but she was probably nervous. We all get nervous. So I'm going to dock some points for that as a viewer. So I would give them a 90.
Ooh.
It's really good.
I'm also going to stay in the A category. I thought that I agree with a lot of what you said. Camille, I think, and I don't know, that could kind of be her, just because I saw how she was in the trial, and I thought she came across very consistent between the way she was as a lawyer and then here as well. But where I'm docking some marks is just a couple of, and I'm being picky, it's the couple of things that I didn't like. Like when she said, I think our response to that will be, or when she said that, we focused on using her words against her. I think there were better ways to have handled both of those. And for that, I mean, that's only 2 out of how many questions that were asked, you know? So that's why, and actually, I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to go with the 90.
Nice. All right. I think they did well.
Yeah. And that's all for today's media tidbit. So I hope this makes sense and helps you think more critically about media interviews and so forth, right? So now you can see how things are really laid out. Yeah. And if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, especially so you don't miss the next one. And until then, hopefully I'll see you in the comments.